morning, all of you, and a very good morning to our respected Chairman, Sir, Mr. M.C.KEJIRWAL, Director, Mr. Nilkant Gupta, Principal, Mrs. Malika Mukherjee, and Headmaster, Mr. Bishwajit Majumdar. Well, we have gathered here for a webinar, a panel discussion, a chat show, an interactive session, call it whatever, give it whatever name you want. But I would get into the why, when, and what of this webinar a little later.
फैकल्टी, यहाँ के सिस्टम्स, यहाँ के रीडिंग मटेरियल्स, यहाँ के काउंसलर्स से ज्यादा समझ है। एक्चुअली ऐसे स्टूडेंट्स होते भी हैं, लेकिन आप में से ऐसा कोई नहीं, नॉट इवन अ सिंगल वन। मैं ये इसलिए कह सकता हूं क्योंकि हमें अगले साल के टॉपर्स भी पता है। हमें पता है कि वो किस शहर में हैं, किस ओलंपियाड की तैयारी कर रहे हैं। और ये मैं इसलिए भी कह सकता हूं क्योंकि आप यहां 12th में आए हैं, ऑलरेडी 1 साल लेट। और टॉपर्स कभी लेट स्टार्ट नहीं करते। आईआईटी की 53 इयर्स की हिस्ट्री में आज तक किसी रिपीटर ने टॉप नहीं किया है, एक्सेप्ट इन 2002। तो आप में से कोई भी टॉपर तो नहीं है, आप में से कोई भी इन रिजर्व सीट्स पे नहीं बैठे। आपके पास 1 साल नहीं है, आप कम से कम 1 साल पीछे हैं। तो आप चुपचाप इस संस्था की प्रक्रिया का पालन करें। दिस इज द फर्स्ट एंड येट द मोस्ट क्रूशियल बैटल ऑफ योर लाइफ एंड यू कैन नॉट अफोर्ड कंप्लेसेंस। आप लाइफ में कहां पहुंचेंगे, आपका घर कितना आलीशान होगा, आपकी कितनी सुंदर लड़की से शादी होगी, आपके बच्चे छुट्टियों में यूरोप जाएंगे या ननिहाल, आप एसयूवी ड्राइव करेंगे, सेडान या हैचबैक, ये सब इस एग्जाम से डिसाइड होगा। दिस इज योर चांस टू बी समबडी। आप लोग बहुत टैलेंटेड होंगे, but this world is swarming with unsuccessful men with talent.
Well, I hope Netflix doesn't sue me for using their video without their permission. But this is the reality. The reality that becomes a part of your life the moment you take up science in class 11. What happens is, every other person becomes a career expert. Every other person you meet gives you career advices, and every other person tells you what to do. But the wonderful feature of those people is 99% of those people have never really appeared for those exams. They have never really sat for those exams. And most importantly, they never cracked those exams. So here we are today. We are going to talk to such people who have actually walked that path. They have been there. And there are 2 things which are common amongst all of these people. One is they have all faced this situation that you just saw in the video. Somebody somewhere must have always told them that this is not for them or they can't do it. There must be some people who have given them some useless piece of advice, but they have always chosen to take it in their strides and move ahead. And the other thing which is common between amongst all of these people is that is they have all listened to those advice, but they have surged ahead. There's one more thing which is common amongst these people. They all belong here to this school. They have all given their boards, they have all studied, they have all been a part of this organization that you are a part of today. So they are people whom most likely you people have already met when you are running down the corridor, or you are playing in the basketball court, or you are attending a program in the Malay Manch, or you have seen them conduct assembly in the atrium area. So I'm just going to introduce them one by one. If already you people don't know them, primarily they are all, their first and foremost identity, I would say, is they are all the students of MCKV. They are all ex-students. I would just first start with the senior most, that is Dr. Neil Ray, or Neil, as I would like to refer to him by his first name. He is ISC 2014 batch. The year I joined MCKV, Neil graduated from school. So I just missed meeting Neil at school via Whisker. The next is Dipanjan, who's a 2016 batch pass out, followed by Rishit and Sanskar, both of whom have been a part of the 2019 batch, and the very recent, our outgoing school captain Ankit, the 21 batch. Now, where these people are today is obviously by Dr. Neil Ray. You can understand that he's a doctor. He's done his MBS and from the College of Medicine, Sagar Datto Hospital, and he is now preparing for his MD, I guess. That's what Neil told me. Talking about Dipanjan, Dipanjan is on the other side of the world right now. He is joining us today from Texas. He is in Texas, USA, and he's just finished cooking his dinner and has joined us over here. So he was giving me a little bit of high blood pressure when I saw him not joining. So he said, like, so I'm cooking my dinner. I'll be here in a while. And Rishit is presently in IIT Kharagpur. He's doing his integrated masters in mathematics and computing. Sanskar is in BITS Pilani, and Sanskar is pursuing his Bachelor of Engineering in Computer Science and Information Systems. And Ankit is currently going ahead in a mission to crack all the competitive examinations that are there in his vicinity. Okay, that's what Ankit is doing at this moment, because he's went through WBJE, he's stood fourth in that. He's cracked his IIT JEE mains, and now he's just given his advanced. He is preparing for NEET, and he thinks of cracking it as well. He's cleared his Indian Statistical Institute entrance examinations. He's cracked KVPY. I don't know, like maybe if he can try for IAS or IPS and IFS, he might crack that too, like on a spree, kind of like the spree he is on. So that's our panel today. And what we are going to talk about is, like, we are obviously, we are not going to bore you with PowerPoint presentations. We are not going to bore you with information of all technical stuff, because mostly I don't want to kill your interests right at the bud. Rather than, I would like to grow it for you people. So what we are trying to look at is how these people made it through, so that you know how to do it. These people have already walked the path you want to walk on. Primarily, what I believe always is, before we do something, we think about it. We have a notion about it. We have an idea about it, a mindset, right? That is the first and foremost criteria when we try to get something done. I would just like to talk about that first. And I would just like to ask Neil first this, that when you have become a doctor today, it's already, you have traversed quite a long path. So when, like, was it your ambition right from childhood that I want to become a doctor? Because I was not that focused as a child. I remember when I was really small, I wanted to be a truck driver. Finally, I ended up being a teacher. So what is it about you? Like, you always wanted to become a doctor, or how did this develop?
First of all, a very good morning to everyone, to the director, the principal, the headmistress, and the headmaster, and all the panelists. So that's a very interesting question, sir, because when I was in class 1, I was 6 or 7 years old. I wanted to become a bus conductor. That is what I wanted to become.
We could have paired up.
Yeah, exactly. So later when I grew up, I was in class 8 or 9, I guess. I did not have many choices, in a community where, in a middle class community, you do not see much options, because you are told that it's either being a doctor or an engineer or my mother, both my parents were teachers. So I wanted to become either of them. I had a great inclination towards teaching as well. But later, when I cracked my ICSE, that was the time when I thought about it. And that is what I wanted to tell everyone, that it's absolutely normal if you're unsure about what you want to become in life. And there's no right time, to just know everything about all the options that you have. You gradually get to know. It also depends on your surroundings, your colleagues, your friends, your teachers. So my inclination for being a doctor was very late. And to all my students and my juniors and my friends, I just want to say that do not take decisions in life based on very specific or small things. Like, for example, if you want to become a doctor, it's not that you will have an interest in biology. It's absolutely wrong to say that. You might like chemistry more, you might like physics more when you're studying in class 8 or 9. And it also depends on your teacher. If you get a good teacher in a particular subject, you suddenly have you start growing an influence towards that subject. So it's all about the vibe. You wake up in the morning from your sleep, and what is the first thing you think about? Does technology interest you more? Does money interest you more? Does economics, maths, what do you see around yourself that you think about every day? So it's about the vibe that is important. And for me, that vibe was getting to know everything about how this ecosystem of humans and the things that affect humans functions. So yeah, that's my story. It was very late for me. The decision was very late, and you need to click. The vibe needs to click. And also, when you're studying in your class 9 and 10, the stream is already more or less fixed, because you either choose commerce or science. And I have seen that most of my friends in my batch, or even before that, the general trend in our country or in our state is that if you score good marks, you choose science. That is absolutely, that is one thing I find absolutely ridiculous. And like right now, even right now, I go through YouTube videos, where I find certain topics of finance interesting. I like to read about mutual funds. I like to read about stock market, how the stock market functions. So it's not about marks. And it might be a wrong, I'm not sure if I should say this because we have teachers over here in the panel. Sadly, unfortunately, the Indian schooling system is does not prepare you for life. It does not prepare you for what you're going into. It's so don't worry about your marks. Don't be influenced by your marks in your subjects. You must study well. You must believe in yourself. You must understand all the concepts. But while choosing your stream or what you want to become, don't be influenced by the particular subject or marks. Just it's all about the why. That's what I would.
That is a very, very important remark made by Neil. Like, obviously, there's a lot more to life, because primarily what I believe is school is a controlled environment. We we understand you're going to get into trouble doing that. We try to stop you before you do that. Life does not come with that usual manual. So what happens there is you go out, you do it, and then you face it, and then you learn your lessons on the way. Talking about school, basically, I would like to talk about my experience as a class teacher for the first time. I was appointed class teacher of a section of 9. It was 9D. That was my first year as a class teacher. Session was 2015-16. And this two people, Rishit and Sanskar, were a part of that particular class. And that was a unique sort of a class, for the simple reason you pick out any guy out of that class, and that boy has excelled or stood out in their own field. Not necessarily everybody has gone in the same direction, but they are doing absolutely great in whatever they have done. Sanskar is in BITS. Rishit is in IIT KGP. I have Nikunj, who is in IIT as well. There is Rishabh, who is in NIT. Siddharth Gupta is flying aeroplanes. He's training to be a commercial pilot. We have people who have been studying in National Medical College. So you throw a piece of paper, it lands on somebody's head who's a high achiever. I just want to know, because what I believe is whatever we are ultimately is a byproduct. We are a byproduct of the environment we live in. It influences a lot. So I just want to know from Rishit, like, what was your classroom dynamics like? What was there in that classroom between those people that this sort of environment developed in that particular class?
So good morning, everyone. Like, like sir told that in class 9D, everyone has excelled in their.
Rishit, we are losing your audio. Hello? Yeah, can you just plug in your earphone a little bit?
Yes. Can you hear?
Very faint.
Hello.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, now it's okay. Yes.
So all of like when we see some.
Again, Rishit, I think there's a problem.
Hello.
Yeah, it's there. It's been a bit of noise, but it's there. Yes.
So in class 9, everyone.
Rishit, I think you should replace the headphone.
Okay. Sir, you talk with Sanskar.
Yes, I'll do that. Yes, because Sanskar has been also a part of that class. He was the monitor of that class as well, I guess.
Yeah. Hello. So good morning, everyone. So like as sir said, like I don't know, means maybe I have been in only one batch. That is why I can say it was unique. But in a way, I feel that in our batch, the best thing was the kind of bond we had with each other. Like I don't know, like I saw PU ma'am joining, and maybe Sangeeta ma'am is there or not. They can tell that even when in class 11 and 12, when we were there, when they were teaching, there was something really different about the way our class dynamics used to work because of the way like the classes would be there. It's not that, like generally known, general notion with science students is they don't attend schools. But that wasn't really true for our batch. Like Rishit is here, he was one of the patrons who used to run away as soon as the lunch break starts. So it was a really troublesome for some of the teachers because people in our class used to wait for lunch break to begin. There have been constant complaints. Rajoshi sir has been our class teacher. He knows how many times have teachers gone and complained to him that these students don't wait in the class even for a second after the bell goes off. And the prime reason was that because like we kind of enjoyed within ourselves. It's not that when we are in school, we are only discussing related to some academic things. When we were there, we were trying to focus on everything. Like it wasn't any times like people used to bring books, people used to bring a lot of study material too. And it was compartmentalized. It wasn't that at random times people are doing random stuff. And that is really important that as a batch you grow together because I guess the competitive feeling is important when you're going for a competitive exam like this. And somewhere or the other, if your friends around you or if the people around you support you in that, or sometimes it happens that you are working and they are like, "Arey, ye answer dekho aata hai kya?" Or like you are doing some random stuff and you feel like, okay, this is something which he was doing, I can also work on that. That is really important. You cannot just sit back and keep on doing on your own. Like we aren't preparing for some sort of a a normal test where you have to just go and write on your own. It's a competitive test after all. So you need to have that feeling among yourselves that okay, we are working on this together. And that is something which is needed even once you step out of the school. Once you enter into your college, no one over here can like, at least in college you cannot succeed as a lone wolf. You need a pack of people around you. You need people to grow. Like all of us who are here, they will acknowledge this fact that it's important that you work together with people.
I cannot
Staying all
stress
alone, and
on
that is why probably
this more, like what Sanskar said about the college thing. I owe my graduation and my masters to my classmates.
right.
They are not listening right now, but I completely owe both the degrees to these people and the time we spent in doing group studies and stuff in the hostel. So absolutely, this is absolutely true. Like this is I can speak from an engineering point of view that the hostel group study sessions that begins 1 month or maybe a fortnight before your semesters, those are the few days when you learn everything about engineering, things you did not learn for the rest of the semester. Okay, that is how it works. Okay, so thank you Sanskar for putting this up. Now one more thing, like say when we are talking about this preparation and stuff nowadays, we see like one of the people I met, okay, he told me that, sir, I want to put my child in a particular tutorial, and I want to do it so that he had a daughter that she does well in IIT. I said, okay, and which class is she in? So the parent says that she is in class 6 right now, and we are dividing physics, chemistry, and math. So I'm thinking of putting into some sort of tutorial. We don't even know that whether this girl, when she goes up to class 12, is going to become a dancer, a painter, an Air Force pilot, a footballer, a deep sea diver, whatever on earth. And class 6, the parent decided that she needs to do IIT, and she needs to be channelized into some tutorial or something. So yeah, I do think that we need to have a head start, but this is not a head start. This is a head leap, a head jump, something of that sort. So on this note, I would just like to ask Ankit, like when we talk about early starts, how early start? I mean, how much early is early? I mean, good enough early.
Good morning, everyone in this panel, and teachers and headmistress, ma'am, and principals, and everyone. And so, coming to the question, how early is early? Like, is good enough? So, starting at class 6 is not good. Like, it's detrimental to whatever you want to achieve, in your life. So, like, I would suggest beginning at class 8 or 9 is all right, because like you do not need to focus on something. Like, you do not need to focus that you want to go to IIT or any aims or something like that. That is not the aim of starting early. The aim of starting early is to know more than what the syllabus asks you to know. Like, if you want to take up science, if you want to know more, then you should take the opportunity. You should take the extra time that you have in between in class 9 and 10 to know something more, to study some. Like in class 9 you can study the extra things in class 10's books. In class 10, if you have some time, you can go through your class 11 books. These things can be done, and this is what we mean by starting early. And like doing this on your own might be very difficult, might be a very difficult thing, and that's why you see these coaching institutions suggesting that you get enrolled in the 4-year programs and 5-year programs and whatnot. Like, but and I think this is a good advice. Like, you do not need to convince yourself that you have to go into IIT, but if you join these programs, you get an idea of what actual physics is, what actual chemistry is, and how maths will be beyond the syllabus of class 9 and 10. And that is important. If you want to learn something, if you really love the subject that you have chosen, like if you have taken science, if you love science, then you should have some extra idea. And I think there is one more topic that you should know about when you are talking about starting early, and that is about the Indian Olympiad program. And it's like it should be the most prestigious competition that you have ever given. JEE and NEET, these are just for your personal these are just for arranging and setting up your life. But these Olympiad programs are something of national importance. And these programs, they search for students who have a certain level of intellect, who love to do physics and who love to do science, and they want to select that talent and groom them for the upcoming international Olympiads. And there are many levels of Olympiads, like you have pre-regional and then regional Olympiads and the national level Olympiads. And in the end, there is an Olympiad training camp where they select 20 people from all the thousands of, all the millions of children in the country. They will select 20 people who are really interested in studying a particular subject. They will groom them so that they can represent the country in the international Olympiads. They will ultimately select 8 people who will go to the international Olympiads. So these things, you cannot expect yourself to go to that level. You cannot expect yourself to go to international Olympiads or such. It's given that there is a 99.99% chance that you will not be among the top 8 students of your age category in the country. But the process that you will go through, the efforts that you will put in to learn something more about the subject that you love, that will take you a long way when you come to class 11 and 12, when you want to
like we say, no knowledge that we acquire goes to waste. Whatever we learn, right?
Yes, And
Like,
these
I'll
are
pick
like,
up from the same web series that Rajoshi sir had picked up in the starting. I was actually watching it yesterday night only, so I remember all the dialogues too. Over there also it was mentioned the same thing, that don't give IIT because you want to get into it. Give it because you want to give your time, you want to give that effort towards it. So
Absolutely.
even if you miss out on something, or even if you don't do anything, like, you're learning at the end of the day, and somewhere or the other it will come handy, frankly. Like, a lot of science students have this thing, English kya kaam aayega, 11 12 mein itni English padhte hain. But believe me, your science will only help you to get into the college. To get through the college, you need that personality development, you need that good stance of English, you need everything that you have learned till date.
That's a very interesting thing that Sanskar mentioned. So I would just like to add another perspective.
Sure, please.
There are two components to starting early. One component is starting early for your academics. The other is starting early for life as a whole, or a career as a whole. You might not be sure about your career when you're in class 5 or 6, but you always know that what you want at this point of time. What do you like at this point of time? So it doesn't matter what you like as far as your academics are concerned. Let's say in class 5 or 6 you like a particular subject. As Ankit said, try to know more about it. Your school books is about the syllabus that you have to give your exams for. But for your life ahead, for your future, the more you know about things at an early stage, even scientifically speaking, biologically speaking, you tend to gather more information, and that retention is more about that subject. And as far as what Sanskar said, that's a very interesting thing. And yes, Kota Factory, I think everyone should watch that web series, because what he says is that English or any other personality building entity, that's your vocabulary, that's your language, that's your the way you speak in public speaking, that use your school for that. All the students in this panel in class 9 and 11 12, you are in a very good school. It's a good school. It gives you enough opportunities. Just exploit your school for that. Exploit and take everything that your school has to offer. Take part in all events. That is something that I regretted in class 11 and 12. When I went into class 11 and 12, there was a lot of pressure. The studies, it's difficult when you're in ISC in class 11 and 12, especially because of the syllabus of English. The literature is huge. So, but don't give up on these small things which will help you in the long run. It's very important.
Thank you so much for all these inputs. Now, we have been talking about IITs. We have been talking about all the institutes of national importance, Olympiads. But let me tell you something. This is not the be all and end all of things. That is, there is a huge world which is beyond this IIT. There is a big area that is beyond IIT, and a very minute percentage of people actually go for IITs and national medical colleges, do medicine or do take up engineering at a premier institute. But there's a big world outside that. A part of that big world is what Dipanjan is living in right now. Dipanjan, would you just like to focus on that? What if not IIT?
A very good morning to one and all present here in this panel and beyond in the audience. Firstly, it feels very nostalgic to be here because I have been fortunate enough to be familiar with quite some members, some distinguished members of this this call, and I was just going through the list. It was very differently structured when I was back there in school. And it just feels like, like hosting in the morning assembly where you go first with the prayer and then with the shloka and then with the morning song. I got a very similar kind of a vibe from this session, and it just makes me feel really good about it. So yeah, I mean, when Ankit was saying that class 6 is not the right time to make a decision, but we are supposed to get more clarity by the time we are in our 8th standard, I got very worried about myself because there are still, when I wake up in the mornings and I tell myself, Dipanjan, are you really doing the right thing? Do you want this master's degree? Is this the right subject for you? And most of the times I don't have an answer. I just shut that part of the brain and I just go on with my day. I'm like, nahi, ye nahi sochna hai. And interestingly, it's pretty unbelievable how normal this is. to not know what to do and to not realize what we are doing. That was one of the prime reasons why I messed up in my competitive exams, because I did not know that I wanted to do engineering at all. So my strategy was to break down my day into smaller goals. So I knew कि आज मुझे school जाना है. I have to sit through 8 periods and I have to come back home and I have to go to 3 tuitions and I have to sit for a test in the tuition and I have to come back and then tomorrow starts again. So that is how I broke down my life into. Okay, and maybe I did not. That is not the most optimized approach of doing things. But that is how it worked out for me. And there were phases of disappointments. There were phases of things falling apart, like especially when Ankit Mondal, he is taking terms like Olympiads and KVPY and NEET and all. I have messed up sequentially in all of the exams. I did not clear a single one of them. Not the most proudest moment of my life. I slept through my JEE Advance. Luckily, I was lucky enough to qualify mains. I slept through my JEE Advance and remember a teacher coming and waking me up and asking me, do you want to go? And I was like, hell yeah. And so from there, I started off with Sikkim Manipal. That is where I did my bachelor's from. And I think what is very essential in a point like this, where you know that you have messed up at a conjunction, I think what is essential is to be informed. And many people lack that. We don't know that what are the things that we can do to change our lives at one instant. And a very similar thing happened with GRE. Like when I first got acquainted with it, with this examination that exists, and apparently you can give it and just shoot out into the world and just walk out. When I used to talk about it to my friends, and usually the response that came back was not a very positive one. I mean, it was like, kya bol raha hai yaar? America kaise jayenge? Kal ke exam ke liye padhte hain. You know, very, like it was something unrealistic, something unbelievable that I had told them. And I mean, that it's very unfortunate that it is that way. But what I learned was I took a lot of information on it. So I started digging up information that, now, obviously, a good score is not the only thing that what it takes to get admitted to a good college, especially if you are thinking in the international terms. Like in a country like United States, the admission committee is notoriously famous for having a very holistic approach towards applicants. I mean, they will see everything that you have done since the time you were born till the point that you applied for that college. And that includes everything, including volunteer work, including the research background, including your internships, including your sports participation. So it cannot be a one-day's profile that can get you admitted to a college. It's not possible. So sometime in 2016, when I went to Sikkim Manipal, I was pretty depressed with my performance because I got into Sikkim Manipal and it was not something fancy and grand like an IIT or an NIT, like both me and my parents and my peers would have wanted me to be. So then I started digging up that what does it take to build a profile? And I started off randomly with internships. So my father works for the railways, and I just randomly did an internship with the Indian Railways in the second year. And then one thing led into another, and I took part in paper writing programs. I got my first paper published when I was in my second year, and then things followed up. And a very good thing about the Indian academic system is we usually don't speak about positives, but I will say a very interestingly good thing about the Indian academic system is that if I have the effort in me, if I give the effort, there will be people around who will help me out. I have felt that in school. I have felt that in high school. I have felt that in college. I have felt that if I am approaching someone, especially someone who is my mentor or my teacher or my professor, they are always ready to help. And we often think that it's not true. We might find them to be sitting on some throne beyond our reach and unapproachable, but that is definitely not the case. If anyone in the panel or in the audience has any doubt on that. So that was my step one, because I started reaching out to people. I was like, how are you in this college? So I reached out people on LinkedIn. I reached out people in my college alumni. And yeah, then one thing led into another. And 2020, I gave my GRE. I was working at that time. It was a very depressing year for all of us, including me. And yeah, I mean, by the time I was applying, I was not sure if I would get into any college or if I would get accepted, but I knew what I was doing. I knew what it took to build a good profile and what it took to get accepted. So yeah, I'm not sure if I answered your question, but
absolutely, absolutely. So this we are just trying to show you like or talk to you about both sides. Okay, like what if you get, fine, okay, what if you don't get? There's always another way. One more thing that has always fascinated me is IITs have been synonymous with engineering. We always consider that IIT is for engineering. Technology is a wider bracket. Okay, it's a wider bracket. Engineering is a subset of that, right? There are other subsets which are present in that bracket which we don't usually know of. Okay, so what better to know it from one of the IITians, like what other options do we have in an IIT from somebody who's actually not doing a run-of-the-mill BTech degree. He's doing his integrated masters in maths and computing. Rishit.
I hope my audio issue is fixed now.
Yeah, absolutely. This is crystal now.
So, like, I am doing an integrated master's degree. It is BSc plus MSc, a 5-year course.
It's becoming sine wave. Now you are on the bottom half.
So, I am in an
Rishit, are you on a laptop?
Yes.
Can you remove the microphone, the headphone, and try to see if the internal speakers and mics work?
Can you hear me?
Yes, much better.
Is it fine now?
Yes, absolutely.
So, master's degree. In my course,
Rishit.
sir, I will try from my phone.
Yeah, please do that. I think that should be better. Okay, that should be better. Okay. All right. So meanwhile, as Rishit joins in from his phone, he's trying to come in through another device. So as he does that, I would just like to talk about now a few things which relate to the subjects. Okay, we all know that there are these 4 major subjects that we talk about: physics, chemistry, maths, and biology, right? So there are areas, I'd be very honest with all the students who are presently in classes 9 and 10. Guys, I'll just give you a small little statistics with respect to my own subject, physics. You have 6 chapters in class 6. You have 7 chapters in class 7. Then you have 8 chapters in class 8. Class 9, you have 12. Class 10, you have 14. Class 11, you have 32. Class 12, you have 35. So the scariness quotient grows exponentially. So what we are going to do is we are going to just try and figure out how these people dealt through this. Okay, they dealt with it, right? So I would just like to come to them one by one, subject specifically, like how they dealt with it. Before that, I'll just get back to Rishit. Rishit, yes.
Just one second.
Rishit.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi.
So, I'm in an
Rishit, I don't know whether it's a problem with your headphone or something else. There is a sort of problem. Just hold on, please.
Sir, I can't unmute myself from the phone.
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay. Just a second. Rishit, can you just, are you logged in with your phone?
Yes, sir.
Can you just raise your hand there once?
I've
Just 1 second. Yeah. Can you unmute?
yes,
And please disconnect the audio of this laptop.
yes, I've done.
Please. Thank you. Yeah. We can see you here. We can hear you there. Yes, please.
I don't know why it was.
Your audio is still not disconnected, Rishit. You need to disconnect the audio. Don't mute it. Disconnect the audio.
Okay. Now
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes.
So I am in an integrated master's degree in IIT Kharagpur. So it is both BSc and MSc. And so the people there, there are both kind of people. Those who want to do engineering and want to get into software firms and go into development and all. And we also have people who are just interested in studying mathematics as a field. They just want to study, they want to do PhD, and they want to, they don't have any motive about doing development, about doing a job and earning money. They are here just for learning. They love mathematics. I'm not one of them. I don't like maths, but I got this course because of my rank. I had to take it.
And how much of that has changed now? Like, is there a change in the stance? Like, okay, you were not a big fan of maths, but right now you are not exactly pure maths. You are somewhere in between maths and computing. So how is it going for you now? Like, is that still a love-hate relationship, or you don't like it at all still? What is it?
Yeah, yes. Like before joining, I thought somehow I will clear the courses of mathematics and just by studying one night before the examination. But now, like, there are courses that I really enjoy. I never thought that I would like something that is purely mathematical. But now there are courses that are really interesting. And in class in 11 and 12, you would think that these courses that we are studying in mathematics, we are doing integration and all, where we will need them in our life afterwards. But yeah, there are certain courses that are really essential and you will need them later on.
Right. Thank you so much, Rishit. Now, like I was talking about subject specific stuff, also like there are questions which are flowing in to my chat box. Okay, so specifically I would just like to talk about subjects now and a matter related to them. First of all, we are going to talk about physics, and obviously because that's my favorite subject, we are going to give it some priority. Come on, I got to take a little bit of advantage of the situation I'm in right now. Okay, so first of all, for physics, I just want to ask Sanskar. Sanskar, tell me something. You have this entire bunch of this whole class 11, class 12 is a big syllabus, big frame. So how do you manage to tackle it? Do you shortlist certain concepts and stuff like which are not really that important? What do you do that?
Well, like right in the beginning, no offense to any physics teacher because I can see most of them over here, but I hated physics. Like when I stepped into +2, I was like, I like physics, but 2 months into mechanics or those who are following DC Pandey, the first volume of DC Pandey, the second chapter, I was like, no, physics isn't my cup of tea. And that was one of the major reasons why my class 11 physics wasn't that strong. That is something which I had to bear through even in my JE days. But the most important thing over there is to compartmentalize. Like I didn't like mechanics, but as soon as mechanics got over, once we started into electrostats, we started into current, we started into other topics like optics or for that matter, electronics. These were portions which really interested me. So I realized that it's not important that I'm able to focus on everything at every point of time. And it is very normal because, as Sir said, we are having 3 subjects. Physics is just one of those. So when you are focusing on 3 subjects parallelly, at times there will be topics which you're not that good at. It's not that you give up at that moment because, like, frankly, not many of us get a 360 out of a 360 score. Nowadays, I guess they have reduced it to 350, but whatever it is, like, you shouldn't aim at just getting the complete score. At times, it is very important to find a score which is comfortable for you. Because had I started worrying too much about the portion in which I wasn't very confident about, the mechanics portion that I'm referring to, I probably wouldn't have even scored that much as I could in physics, because it is normal. Like, you cannot understand everything in every subject for that matter. So yes, it's important that you would take an informed decision, however, that which portion is how much important, which portion are you most comfortable in, and which portion is going to take the maximum time of yours. Most of the times people mess up over there, that they do not realize that the time which they are giving to a particular topic or to a particular subject, is it really going to go worth it? I know people who have given like tremendous amount of efforts to a particular chapter which is generally not even asked in JEEs, or which is not even asked in a lot of competitive examinations. So that is something which you need to kind of analyze. You need to understand how the things go about in that manner.
Right. Thank you so much, Sanskar. So next comes to the subject I'm not really a big fan of, to be very honest. Specifically the inorganic portion of it, chemistry. Like organic, I can deal with. Inorganic gives me nightmares, to be very honest. Ankit, how I know you two are not a big fan of inorganic, but then we do take the bitter pills at times. So how did you deal with it?
Like a fear of inorganic chemistry is like endemic to all JEE aspirants. If you have seen Quota Factory, there was a episode for the rant, and like, if you have seen it, that inorganic chemistry is not easy. But what is important is that at the end of the episode, when they go to their favorite teacher, and the person says that if you cannot do inorganic chemistry, then don't give so much of your time to that. And then the student says that, but sir, a lot of questions come from there. So, and if I don't, like, a couple of questions come every time. So if I don't study that, I won't be able to answer them, and I will lose my ranks will come down. So sir said that, well, you are not going to get into the top 100 ranks. So why do you care about rank coming down? Your rank will improve only when you have a good rank. If you give entirety of your time to inorganic chemistry, you will not get a rank. So like, that is the general solution that most people have for inorganic chemistry. And I did suffer in chemistry most of the time in my JEE preparation, but due to the pandemic, I got almost 1 year in extra for preparation of JEE, and for like most part of 2021, I was just studying chemistry, and specifically inorganic chemistry. There is a book called J.D. Lee, and it contains a lot of extra information, and you have to. I just went religiously through that part for the greater part of 2021, and that helped. Like, there were questions in advance too that helped in. I would not have got the answers to that if I followed any notes or any other book. Those were in JD Lee. But like, this won't work for other cases. For if you are a 2020 or 2021 batch student, then you would have got this advantage of 1 extra year to cover up your weaknesses. That won't be the case for most people. So in that case, I can just suggest that there will be hardly 1 or 2 questions from inorganic chemistry. If you are not, like, do whatever you can, do what is there in your coaching institutions, books, and all those stuff. But if you are not able to do that well, don't freak out over it. Go with there are lot more sections. Organic is the biggest part of chemistry. Like, the majority of questions in chemistry come from organic. So if you manage that well, that will do the trick. And even in inorganic, like, when you are studying in any coaching institution, then they most of the time will not be able to answer more than 50% of your inorganic chemistry questions.
The best idea is not to lose the sleep over it, rather to work on the other aspect.
Yes, and coaching institutions usually give much more harder questions on inorganic chemistry, because students won't be able to answer. That is the particular. They know students won't be able to answer.
You mean to say that gives them some kind of a sadistic pleasure, that I have set a question and give them a feeling of superiority. That I have set a paper which nobody can answer, kind of thing.
Yes, and then there's a thing that it's word of mouth, and then people will say that this institution has the hardest question paper. We should give this question paper to prepare for JEE Advanced, and then such things happen. So don't freak out. Just study whatever, do the basics, keep your concepts clear, and then after that, if you can't do, then focus on your strengths.
Right, absolutely. Thank you, Ankit. Rishit, since you are, even if you don't like the subject, you are ultimately dealing with mathematics. Approaching mathematics for the boards and approaching mathematics for comparatives is a very different thing. It's a very different ball game altogether, right? So what is the difference? Can you just in very quick note tell me what is the difference, or tell everybody what is the difference between these two?
So like for boards in mathematics, you need to know a chapter, you need to know how to solve a particular problem. Like most of the problems we know that we will get one problem based on this concept, one problem based on this concept. We know everything. But in IIT, in JEE advanced examinations, one question involves 3 or 4 topics, completely unrelated topics. They will combine topics like calculus and 3D geometry in one question. Like, you know, you need to know the concepts really well. You need to have solved thousands of problems on each topic. Only then you will be able to solve the problem, because when 3-4 topics are combined in a single problem, you will see the question and you will get confused. Like, I have solved a problem on integration, I've solved a problem on this concept, but now how can I solve a problem which involves both of them? So
Right,
you need
right.
to know the subject really well for clearing or doing those problems that are asked in JEE Advanced.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Rishit. Coming to biology, this is one subject I had to quit in class 10 for the simple reason I somehow had the feeling that I need to get a cosmetic surgery on my tongue in order to be able to pronounce all the terms that are there, let alone memorizing them. So for that, who better to ask about biology than the doctor who's in the meeting right now? Neil, what was the approach of biology for NEET? Sanskar, is it by just 1 second, Neil? Sanskar, is it you from another device? No, right?
So,
No. Okay, not a problem. I think everybody else will take care of that, right? Yes. Yes, please. Neil.
Yeah, so I guess the strategy for biology is very similar to physics or chemistry. Basically, before preparing for any exam, you must spend a lot of time in preparing for the syllabus. Scanning the syllabus, chalking out the important topics, and you will never know about those topics when you start. Right at the outset, it's very difficult. So again, in quoting that TV series, they say they say that pehle exam ko padho. So it's very important to study the exam before studying for the exam. In biology specifically, I think there's a similar issue in physics and chemistry as well, that when you prepare for the entrance exam, I think sometimes the syllabus of class 11 and 12 does not overlap. It's not congruent with the ISC syllabus. So sometimes students do face a problem in time management. So I believe that when you join a coaching institute, and as most of the students do these days, it's important to focus on the common topics first that are common between NCERT. So you should have, that is plant kingdom, the anatomy of plants, the morphology of plants. But unfortunately, they are very, very important in NEET. It's very huge. But in biology teachers, they are very efficient in letting the topics that are important for your exam. So please follow their rules and suggestions like Bible, like your Gita or Quran or whatever. So because what your teachers in MCKV tell you about the syllabus, what you need to focus on is absolutely spot bang on. So yes, so do prepare for biology from NCERT. Focus more on the common topics first in class 11, and most of the difficult topics are in class 11. So I believe that for a NEET aspirant, your class 11 focus in biology should be really, really good, because all the systems, the human systems, even the plant systems are covered in 11, and in class 12 it's just the reproductive system and evolution and genetics. That's it. So please study the materials of your coaching institute and NCERT, and listen to your biology teachers. But that's what I have to say. And just to add a point in chemistry, for a NEET aspirant, the rank is decided by chemistry. It's not biology, because every other student is scoring 350 or 360 out of 360 in biology, because the pattern of biology is so uniform that the study of biology is very easy. It's very easy to crack all the questions. But as far as physics is concerned, you do not need to go into the depths of all topics. That's a good thing for you, because DC Pandey has 3 levels, level 1, 2, and 3, I guess, if I'm not wrong. So you don't need to solve the level 3 questions or level 4 questions. You just need to know the basics, and don't waste your time on in-depth topic discussion with your students also. You might feel the urge sometimes, and that is the most important thing for preparing for NEET. You need to control your urge. Like I used to like mechanics, electromagnetism, and radioactivity a lot. Those were my favorite topics. I did not like optics, but when I used to study that, I wanted to solve more questions. But that is where you will go wrong. You don't have to solve so many questions and waste your time. You need to focus on chemistry more and biology, obviously. So that is what I want to advise.
Right.
Learn to control your urge.
Thank you so much, Neil. One question which I would want like most of all of you to contribute to very concisely, but a very important one. Now, before we ask that question, like say so many times you have quoted this particular web series, I would just name it. It's Quota Factory. It would be unfair on our part if we don't name it. And every time a series like that comes up somewhere, it becomes more challenging for from the point of view as a teacher, because when your students watch something like this, they immediately try to relate you to Jitu Bhaiya, and like it's very difficult to match up to that level. So anyway, with all due credits to Jitendra Kumar, who was also an IITian. Jitendra Kumar is himself from IIT, right? Okay, so one thing that I would like to know from you people, that is, whenever you took up science, there has always been immense societal pressure from all corners. People who are sitting beside you in the classroom would, if you do well, like I'm using a typical MCKV term. There are certain MCKV lingos that I've picked up over the years. Some of them are really weird, but this is a common term. Like you do well in an exam, your number is called out immediately. The collective cheer goes up, topper. Okay, so that's a common MCKV term that indirectly adds some kind of pressure as well, because they might all do it in good humor, good spirit, but you are always used to listen to that topper. Somewhere at the back of your mind that keeps on going. Your parents have invested a lot of their efforts, time, money, everything in you. Even if they don't say anything to you, even if they give you complete liberty, you being a young adult, you know what is expected of you and how much effort they are putting in. And let us not talk about the random uncle and the auntie who lives in the society and keeps on asking you about your results and how did you do in IIT, and how one of their relatives who is like so distant you would need Hubble to spot them, how they are doing in their life. How did you, because what is happening is this is creating a havoc in all the people who are aspiring for something, a career in science. Now, what is it that took you people to deal with it? How did you people deal with it? I would just like to know it very shortly, because after this we'll have to go for the questions, because there are lots of questions. So very in a few words, I would just want it from each one of you. We'll start with at the level of seniority. Okay, so we'll start with Neil first.
Okay, so I think I was fortunate enough. I did not have to deal a lot, because fortunately I had very good friends. I had a very good friend circle, and in my home, my parents were very supportive. They have never ever asked me to, expected me to live up to a particular notion or expectation. So, but I think in the end, it boils down to your own mentality. How much you are affected by what people say, because people will say, and even if my parents would have said something or my friends had said something, I wouldn't have felt any pressure because of the kind of person I am. Because everyone has an opinion today, and it's good to have an opinion until you are facing those. You are at the face, target of those opinions. So I believe that it's up to you. Have a strong mentality. All you need to focus on is what you are studying. Please cut off unnecessary interactions, but you should interact with good people, your teachers, and you will always know, you will always get the vibe from a person who thinks good about you, who is positive about you. Being critical is very good. It's and getting to know and and knowing everything about the wrongs of a particular thing, the cons of a particular thing is very important. But it should come from a person who you trust and who wants you to do well, not just from, not from any random person. So identifying good people is the key, and building yourself a strong you is a very important factor. That's all I have to say.
Right. So followed by Dipanjan.
I completely agree with what Neil said. And if we have a look at the demographics of India and the population of students who take up science, it is really very ignorant of the person if they have any absurd level of expectations from us, because it definitely does not work that way. And I agree with him. Like, it comes down to the company you keep and how you react to things. Like, I have been here in a foreign country for over a month now. And if I start reacting to every minor inconvenience and every minor thing that pokes me, then I will just lose my own peace of mind. Nothing is going to change. I mean, neither my circumstances nor my ambience. Everything remains constant, only I go crazy with my own thoughts. And it is a very similar scenario if we talk about being brought up in Indian society. Don't react. It's fine. Paroski auntie comes and tells you that, how did your exams go? Well, just smile and walk out. I mean, honestly, there comes a point when you realize that you do not need to keep everyone around you pleased just for the sake of it. I think it comes down to that, though it might sound very theoretical and very philosophical, but yeah, we need to choose and filter out what we are listening to and how it is affecting our minds and our day-to-day lives. And that is how I think has been the way for me to proceed with things.
Right. Thank you, Dipanjan. These two belong to the same batch. I'll go alphabetically with Rishit first.
So in class 11. Hello,
Rishit.
sir.
Yes, Rishit,
Actually,
yes. Yeah, tell me.
so when I was in class 11, 12, Sanskar used to top all of the exams in the classroom. So I never used to get depressed when I saw him getting. Always I thought that I'm getting 70, he's getting 75. So
This reminds me of that last dialogue from Three Idiots. That when you have failed in that particular examination, you feel sad, but when your friend tops in that examination, you feel a different level of sadness altogether. Yes, Rishit, please.
So whenever he got 75, I got 70. So I never used to get depressed like he's getting better because he has worked more. So all I did was try to get 75 in the next exam. So you should never get depressed when you see others getting more. The best thing about our class 11A and 12A was we all used to push each other. Like, that was the most important thing.
Absolutely. This was the class dynamics I was talking about then. Sanskar, yes.
So Rishit mentioned about me getting 75. I'll refer to Fitji. We were in the same class, and it was just the opposite over there. So he used to get over there. He used to get the ranks in like the top 10, and I would be in 30s or 40s over there. So that was a dynamic which would happen, and that is the thing. Like, you need to understand that not everybody can do the best in every exam. We have to understand that at times you will be good, you won't be good. Especially with me, if I say with me, after my ISC results came out, the pressure on me was tremendous, because after that it was kind of an air created that I have got like a very good score in ISC, and I had my advance, I guess, 20 days after that. So it was a humongous pressure, but at the same time, I understood that whatever I have done in the 2 years is more than enough. Like, in the next 20 days, I cannot kind of build hills, because it's not possible. At times, you need to understand that what your limits are. People will keep saying, frankly, as the Pancha, Neil, everybody has pointed out that people will keep saying. And for example, like, even after I had gone to Pilani, I had people who used to call me and say, IIT क्यों छोड़ दिया? IIT तो IIT होता है. And that is a criticism people will have probably till the day I pass out. But that is the thing. You need to understand what is best for you, because no one other than you can take the best decision for yourself. I am proud I took this decision. I had other options, but I know that at that moment, I knew it was good for me, and probably it will be good in future. Even if it is not, I will know that it was my informed decision. No one else had anything to say about it. That is very important, that you own up to the decisions you take for yourself. Do not let others take any decision for you. Otherwise, the regret is never ending.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ankit.
Yes, my case is like almost similar to Dr. Neil, and that is because I didn't uh, face so much of criticism, or nobody really asked me how my result was. Probably because I would have to, I would have good things to
You
say.
did not
But
leave much place for questions, though. That's a different
yes,
story
that is it.
altogether.
Probably for that reason, but nobody really asked me any such thing. Like my family members knew I was good in studies, and that was enough. They didn't care. Like they didn't even like most of the times, most of them didn't know what test I was giving or whatever, anything like that.
I
So
wish, I secretly wish, like, not just students, we had parents over here as well who were listening, like what sort of support these people actually were rendered from their family in order to allow them to excel and shine the way they did. Thank you so much, all of you, for adding up. We will go to the question session now. Now, before that, uh, I have one person in the meeting, somebody who. Am I audible? Yeah. Okay. So there's this one person I have immense respect for, and I myself, learn a lot of things from our present director, sir, respected director, sir, Mr. Nilkant Gupta. Sir is in the meeting. Sir, if you can kindly share a few words with us, sir. Just a second. I have to. I think there's some sort of Agumani ma'am, if you can kindly look into it once. Agumani ma'am.
Yes, sir. I'm trying.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Okay. Kindly get in touch with sir once. I guess there's some sort of a problem. Okay, so meanwhile, as sir joins us, we'll just try to sort of take this question answer session. And there have been questions flying into my chat box. So I'll just start off with a few questions over here. One second. This comes from Veni Tulsian. Okay, so he says this question is specifically for Dipanjan, I guess. In Indian system of education, universities, there are people with 98, they take in people with 98, 99, and even 100%. There have been cutoffs, like insane levels of cutoffs. But foreign universities maintain a firmer grip on our qualities and abilities. What do you have to say about this contrast between the Indian and the foreign system of education?
I'm not sure what do I have to say because I don't think that matters. But I think it comes down to how you can use either of it to your advantage. And it's a misconcept to say that foreign universities do not consider marks because most universities, especially if you look into countries like England, they are very, very traditional about marks. They really don't care where I volunteered or what papers I've written. If I have a good score, I'm getting in. While in different countries, like especially the Western countries like the United States and Canada, they are more focusing on having a holistic approach. I kind of support having a holistic approach because that does not put a be all and end all tagline to your marks, right? I mean, if I did not do well in my, say, undergrad, does not mean I can't get into a prestigious university. I have to just keep a good profile, maybe add a good work experience or add some good research experience to its site. And I think that ensures that we all have an equal chance to apply or to get into that university, irrespective of how we have scored in an exam that was taken 10 or 15 years in the past. So
Right.
that is my take on it.
This question is a pretty direct question. Comes from Saksham 11A. From which book we should study maths for JE? Okay, is dedicated guy. Okay, when should we start solving PYQs and give mock tests in 11 or 12? What level of preparation is required to be done in class 11 to get CS in top 5 IITs? Okay, first of all, just before that, let me tell you something. This also depends on how the others around you are preparing for those top 5 IITs. It's not ISC examination, so you do excellent, they excel even more, you don't get into top 5 IITs, they get in. Okay, so that's one thing I want you people to know. Yes, now who would like to answer this about maths book for JE? Any suggestions from any of you? Anyone?
I would say like that for maths, any standard book series like Cengage book series on for JE Advanced or JE, like JE, you must be focusing on JE Advanced if you want to get into the IITs. So there is a series by Cengage on JE Advanced. You can take that, and then there is a series by Arihant, like analogous series, but like on the same topics and everything. So anyone, you can take anyone to practice and build up on your practice. And if you are in any coaching institution, then follow your coaching institution also, because the teachers there, they do the hard work for you. They go through all the books, they sort out all the problems, and they give it to you. But if you're not in any coaching institution, no need to panic. If you have any good book series, then that will be enough. There are a lot of sums for practice. Anyone like any Cengage or Arihant, if you take any one of them, you will, if you are able to complete the books in your 2 years of time, that is a great achievement. I myself did not complete it. So like you, that will be enough for your preparation.
I myself didn't even start. So frankly,
Okay, so you see here, these are
like,
people who have
according to
actually
me, I was a bit slow learner, especially when I talk from. Yeah, so with me, it was, especially if I talk about maths, I used to first start with M.L. Agarwal, which was our ISC book, because to get the concepts clear is also very important. What will I do doing an advanced sum if I don't know how to apply the basics of conics or how to apply the basics of integration?
Absolutely.
So
And I feel it scares you even more. Like say, I cannot solve something from Kumar Mittal. I start off with Irodov. Obviously, it will give me nightmares and nothing else. I can only read it as a statement, but I cannot read it as a sum. That is what I feel like.
Sometimes it's also acts as a confidence booster, frankly. कि 4 sum हो गए ML Agarwal के, means I know integration at least.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. This one comes from, okay, this question is for Rishit specifically. This is a question which comes from Chris Jaiswal of 10A. He says, sorry, not Chris Jaiswal, I beg your pardon. This is from Orkodeep Mondol. Orkodeep says, for IIT, making sacrifices like studying in a hostel, far from home, no cell phones, and always be under strict supervision, will this sacrifice be worth it for getting a chance in IIT or NIT? Okay. Honestly, just before Rishit answers, let me tell you something. If you think that not using cell phone is a sacrifice, I will tell you from our point of view, it's a state of luxury. You cannot afford to go without your cell phone right now. And so anyway, yes, Rishit, just coming back.
I would also say that it is not necessary. Like I was studying in MCKV, I was living at home, and I was using a smartphone. I used to do everything. Like I used to watch football matches. I used to watch television series. Like if you like, you should be able to control yourself. It is not like that you will keep using your phone. You will keep watching television every day for 24 hours. You should be able to control yourself. You should know that there is a time for study. There is a time for doing everything else. It is not like that you have to restrain yourself from doing everything. You will use a small phone, not a smartphone. If you can't restrict yourself, you can't stop yourself from opening your phone every second, then it would be good for you to use not use a smartphone. I was able to control myself. I knew that I had to crack this examination. I had my priorities set. So I was able to control myself. So I used a smartphone. I did everything.
Right, right. Okay, so the next question that I have, there are a couple of people who are asking the same question. So I'll just club it into one single question, and I want one word, honest answers from each one of you. Okay. What was the average time of study while you were preparing for your competitive examinations per day? How many hours did you put in for studying, leaving aside your normal schooling hours? So how much time did you invest in studies? One word answer, how many hours on average? Okay.
5.
5 hours. Okay. Ankit?
Like our case is different now. We didn't go to school for 2 years.
No,
So,
you okay, you subtract that school hour from that. Okay, you
Okay.
subtract that hour of school and then you tell me.
it will be around 5 or 6 only, like 4, 5. 5, you take 5, average 5. Yeah.
Okay, average 5. Okay, okay. Rishit?
Yes, 4 to 5.
4 to 5. Okay. Dipanjan?
I think 3 max, 3 to 4.
3 to 4. Okay. Neil?
I'm not even kidding, but it was hardly 2 to 3 hours.
Okay. So here you have your spectrum, boys. Then apart from like whoever was asking me, like there were several people who are seriously interested, like how many hours. This is your hour span, like 5 hours. It ranges from 3 to 5 hours, 6 hours. Now, depending on how fast you grasp your ideas, it totally varies. Like the 5 fingers are not the same. Like if you can grasp quickly, 3 hours should be good enough. If you need a little more time, 5 hours should be good enough. So that's the top limit is 5 to 6. That's what I can tell you, right? So not me, that's what they are telling you. All right. And then this is a very important question from Orithro. This is something which I also believe. The transfer from 10th grade to 11th grade is quite like a transfer from a bucket of water to an ocean. How can students cope up with such a drastic change? I firmly agree to this, that there's a sea change. Like I told you, like 14 chapters, 32 chapters, okay, and all in depth. So how do you cope up with it? What is the method? How did you do it? Anybody who wants to answer, any one of you would like to address this?
I believe that that's a very straightforward answer to that, and that's specifically for our school. I think just trust your teachers. Your teachers in MCKV in class 11 and 12 are so well prepared for the board's education system, because they will tell you the exact topics that are important. So it's very important to filter out the unimportant topics. There are many topics which are not asked in the boards that you don't need to prepare for. So trust your teachers blindly when they teach you in class. Sometimes you might feel that ये वाला नहीं पढ़ा रहे, ये वाला topic क्यों नहीं पढ़ा रहे, कम पढ़ा रहे, why are they not covering everything? But that is the key to crack board exams. You need to focus on, or any exam, you need to focus on what's important for the boards. Don't waste your time in studying everything in the book. I know the books are this thick, but ultimately you need to study this ones. That anyone who's passed or cracked ICSE will tell you that. So just trust your teachers blindly, and that will save you a lot of time.
And just what I'm rather old. Like I have given my entrance examinations, competitive examinations long back. It was 2008 when I appeared. There used to be 3 different examinations: WBJE, AIEEE, and all these things. Like IIT had a different course. And so talking about that, like what I felt is I also had to go through this same problem. Like you people feel like 10 and 11, those benchmarks, those two were drastically different then as well. See, what I think is this is for the students. When you have already taken the leap, you are into the water, you have 2 choices: you swim or you drown. Okay, so drowning is not an option. You've got to keep your limbs moving. If you can swim, you stay afloat, well and good. If you cannot, you at least know that you have tried. So, but if you get petrified and stop moving your limbs, you are no way going to swim. So that's the thing. That is it. I'll just check, like say there are a quick couple of questions, I think.
To add to what Sir
yes,
and
yes.
Neil, both of you said, I think it is very essential to not get intimidated.
Right.
Because I think 11th first term scores are the lowest scores of our entire careers for all of us. So
Right,
it's
absolutely.
very natural. You know, doing good in 11th first term is unnatural. There's something fishy. So
Right, right,
I think don't get intimidated by it.
right. Okay. So, Akumoni ma'am is sir here. Yes. Okay.
I'm
All
here,
right.
Rajesh, sir.
Right,
I'm
right.
here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear you. And so we are all eager to hear your perspective on the whole thing, like whatever we have been discussing over this entire time.
Well, Rajesh, sir, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. But I've lost all my perspectives. You know why? Because this is a very, very emotional moment for me. This just 1 minute.
Sure, sir.
Yeah. Good morning, Neil, Rishit, Dipanjan, Ankit, and Sanskar. Now, a few days back, when we were told that the physics department is organizing an interaction with you, the head of career focus, saw the material, I made a mental note of it, and I said, "Yeah, I know these boys very well." So then I put it out of my mind till yesterday. Agumoni ma'am reminded me, and then I also chat with Rajeshi sir, and I said, "Sure. I mean, I'm going to school, so I'll certainly attend the webinar." But when I saw you boys, I don't know whether I should still refer to you as boys. You're all young men, and we have a doctor in our midst, Dr. Ray. But when I saw you boys, everything blanked out, because I never knew this would be such an emotional moment for me, because my heart is bursting with pride and joy and satisfaction and happiness and love. So, and when your heart is full, your mind stops. So, Rajesh sir, I really don't know how much perspective I'm bringing or how much I'm going to be able to add to some of the very, very academic aspects that all of you touched upon. But all I'd like to say is that, boys, it's great to see you, and to the rest of the audience, I'd like to say that, you know, these 5 gentlemen, they are unique in that they've been able to achieve this very rare and unique blend of academic achievement on the one hand, and full personality development on the other hand. You know, they're very complete people, very, very complete people, because very often you have children who crack this, crack that, who get 90%, 95%, 99%, and IC toppers, CBSE toppers. But then we don't know what happens to them. And then we read about how people say that 80% of the graduates of engineering college and 90% of the graduates of management colleges are unemployable. And why does that happen? I've got the marks, but I'm still unemployable. Why does that happen? But these children are totally different, because yeah, they were academic achievers. These are very bright and highly intelligent people who have Midas's touch. I mean, whatever they touched, it turns into gold. So when they touched academics, that turned into gold. And Neil, I'm sure you knew this was coming, and I'm a little surprised that nobody mentioned it. And I refuse to believe that nobody knows about it. Rajeshi sir, I don't know whether you know about it, but Neil is a brilliant singer. I mean, I remember when he was in middle school and later on in senior school, his singing and his prowess as a musician was almost the level that he had achieved was almost that of a professional singer and a professional musician. And I always used to say that this boy is going to become another Mohammed Rafi, or this boy is going to become another brilliant singer. But then, later on, when, of course, Neil's mother, Sarla ma'am, is a very dear colleague of ours. Later on, we heard he was doing medicine, and I think as a student, when he was in medical college, he did take part in cultural functions and all that. But Neil, have you kept up with your singing, or don't tell me, beta, you've given it up?
Good morning, sir. Actually, sir, it's very kind of you to mention all that. I am not anywhere close to being professional, but you're very kind. And sir, actually, unfortunately, I haven't been able to perform much on
had
stage,
the talent,
but I am in touch with.
Okay. And another thing, you see, among these 5 boys, Neil is the senior most. So I still, today he is Dr. Neil Ray, and he's specializing in pediatrics. So Neil, next time my granddaughter visits me, she's 3 years old, and if there's an issue, I'm going to consult you about her. So now I know where to go. Anyway, I just wanted to say, it's very difficult for me to, reconcile the two, the memories that I have, because my memory of Neil goes back to my pre-MCKV days when he was in class 3. And I remember in 2005, when I was principal of Heritage School, I had come to MCKV as chief guest at the prize day. And Neil was one of the recipients, and I still remember him. And we had the function in the atrium, not in Malay Manch, because Malay Manch was under renovation. And there's a photograph of Neil taking a prize from me. I still have that photograph. So that then from that to this, it's really, and Rajesh sir talks about perspective.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to stop this rambling. I just wanted to come back to this today's program. Rajesh sir, Physics Department, I want to congratulate you for organizing this. I'm sure it was a very, very educative experience for all the 500 odd people who have attended this. And unfortunately, since I'm in school, I kept being interrupted. So, I missed some, I missed Sanskar's opening remarks. And then later on, when children were asking questions, subject-related questions, then I was called away for an important meeting. So large chunks I missed. But just a couple of things all of them, Neil, Rishit, Ankit, Sanskar, Dipanjan, what all of them said, there were certain things that were, actually hitting me between the eyes. So I immediately made a note of that. I just want to share that with you. And I'll also, do we have time, Rajesh sir? How much time? Because, I remember at one point you referred to yourself as old. So then if we are going to describe you, we are going to describe you as old, then, think of an adjective for me.
So certain people don't really age, or they age so gracefully that the years don't count.
Yes. But the only thing is, the disadvantage with the people in my age is that once they start talking, they don't stop. So please mute me when you think.
We always have time to listen to you.
So what I wanted to say was, see, one thing, one very, very pertinent point Neil made, and he said the Indian schooling system doesn't prepare us for life. Neil, you'll be happy to know that right now in MCKV, there's a huge churning going on. And he also said, I don't think I should say this. I don't know whether it would be politically correct because my teachers are all present over here. Neil, I just wanted to tell you, there's a huge amount of intellectual churning going on in MCKV. The people are questioning, people are asking, and the NEP, the National Education Policy, has proved to be a catalyst. So because more and more today, you see, the education system, yes, Neil, you're 100% right. It had its value in its own time. After all, let's not forget that the education system that we are talking about and which is still prevalent is about 200 years old and basically a watered down version of the colonial system. India still haven't, unfortunately, very, very unfortunately, when we had a glorious 5,000-year-old tradition of education, learning or vidya, learning was a great value in this part of the world. And unfortunately, all that's been watered down, and we've stuck to this exam-oriented, marks-oriented, rote learning-based, memory-based, and where it's only marks. So learning, the joys of learning, the fun of learning, getting ready for life, and that this huge world is actually a world beyond academics. All these concepts weren't unfortunately there, and I'm very sorry, boys, but many of you have been victims of it. You see, so there's really nothing much we could do about it. But all I'd like to tell you, boys, there's a lot of thinking going on how to, replace this concept of education that most people have. Because when most people think about education, they think of academics, they think of exam marks. How to put the focus back on learning and enjoyable learning. See, there's a lot of thinking going on, because you see, most of the things that you would learn by rote, whether you're talking about inorganic chemistry, or talking about the things that you had to lists and lists of things that you have to memorize. Most of it today is available. You just have to Google it. Most of the memory-based things that are done today will ultimately be done by machine learning and artificial intelligence. So we don't really have to sit and mug anymore. It's going to be basically understanding concepts and applying them. See, so these ideas are slowly coming in, and hopefully, we'll be able to make it a meaningful experience. Because obviously, if all that education is about, if it's going to be about only learning by rote, and regurgitating what you've memorized, obviously that's not going to prepare you for anything except doing well in an examination. But then what happens? I think somebody else also very cogently, I think it was it Sanskar or was it Ankit? I'm not, or was it Dipanjan? Somebody mentioned that, this is in so many words, that your good marks, your degree or whatever it is basically your high marks. It's basically just a passport to a college or passport to an institution. And likewise, thereafter, when you're armed with your BTech or with your MSc or whatever it is passport to your profession. I think it was Ankit who mentioned that, okay, these are okay for setting your life in order. I mean, meaning these are okay for survival. But then after that, what do you do with life? Then you see, I'm talking about a situation beyond that, where the borders between these so-called disciplines blur. Because this whole world, this whole universe is actually a multidisciplinary entity. There's no compartmentalizing it. Everything is interconnected. Everything is. Philosophy is connected with music. Music is connected with mathematics. Music is connected with physics. So everything is interconnected. So more and more, there's this thinking that, let's develop a cross-disciplinary, multidisciplinary curriculum. So just to reassure you, yes, we fully agree, and you need not hesitate to perhaps say negative things about the Indian schooling system, because in today's day and age, in 2021, there are really very few positives left in this, for the simple reason this catered to a different time. I think it was Tagore, or I'm forgetting whether it was one of the European philosophers who said, a tool belonging to the past, when it is used out of context, becomes an instrument of oppression. That's basically what has happened. Now, another thing Ankit touched upon, he talked about, and this is something that I was discussing with Rajushi sir. See, are we going in for science? Are we sitting for our IIT entrance examination? Are we trying for medical school admission out of societal pressure? Because that's to be done, or are we doing it because we love it? And there also Rishit threw some light. Rishit said there are people in IIT Kharagpur who are doing mathematics just for the love of it. I mean, they don't want to. Isn't that what you said, Rishit?
Yes, sir.
They're doing just for the love of it. I mean, they're not. And he was also frank enough to say that he's not one of them. They're doing it just for the love of it, and they don't intend to make any money out of it. That is actually the truth about learning. I know there also Neil gave us a very, very balanced and a very mature perspective on this. He said, look, in our situation, when all of us come from middle class homes where our parents' salaries are modest or whatever, very often we don't have an option. A sure shot way to a job is sitting for a competitive examination. There also, Neil, I'm happy to say, I mean, you graduated from school, you passed out from MCKV in 2014. I mean, it's been about 7 years. In these 7 years, a lot has changed. Quite a bit has changed. Here also, societal pressure, there also, Neil said, if somebody, when Rajushi sir asked him, that, did you do science because somebody pressurized you to do? And I've heard Neil saying this earlier also, that his parents never put pressure on him. And he's not the kind of person to succumb to pressure. Yeah, people would say all kinds of things, you must do what, you're not doing science. If he wanted to do science, for example, if Neil's heart wanted him to pursue his talents in music, if he had wanted to, chances are he would have done it, regardless of what people would say. Now, and this is what I want to tell everybody over here. There are 397 people present here. That children, to the extent possible, do what you love to do. To the extent possible, follow your passion. And if there's unnecessary pressure, then we have to have the guts and the character and the spine to stand up to it. We have to do it. And here also, by extension, I want to say this. And this is something I've learned from these 5 boys. That you also have to learn to question things. It's high time we question things. So, I had the unique privilege. Actually, I got to know Ankit and Neil and Dipanjan and Rishit and Sanskar personally, because for many things we used to work together. Whether it was a debate or whether it was a speech or whatever, many of these things, or basically just sitting and chatting or talking. I remember spending hours with Rishit when he was a tiny tot. All these boys had questions. They had the ability to question. Like there again, if what I'm saying is that boys in this, they say that in the age that we live in, they describe that it is today described as, a postmodern, post-truth world. Any rubbish that comes to my mind, I can put up on my Facebook account. Now, I have around 1,600 students who follow me on Facebook. They're probably going to say, oh, Mr. Gupta has written this. There must be something, some validity or some truth. Rather than saying, look, this looks very suspicious to me, so let me find out whether this guy is right or not. So it's very, very important to develop that. And this is right in the beginning, I described these children, these boys as, very complete people. These boys never really stopped short at questioning if they felt that, they weren't very comfortable about something. So this is another thing. Rajushi sir, time must be off. It's already 10:40. I'd better stop. I mean, I'll just wind up by some of the other points that, for example, Dipanjan and Rishit said. Dipanjan was frank enough to say that he gets up in the morning and he asks himself, do I really want to do this? Now, Dipanjan, beta, I just want to tell you that that's very much a part of life. Now, what happened is, I think it was philosopher Seneca who said that no matter what you do, you're going to regret it. You do this, you'll regret it. So there again, here I want to tell these 5 gentlemen who are so unique, so impressive, and I want to tell the rest of the audience that it's very important to also be aware, very important for us to be able to manage our thoughts. Just because my mind is throwing up a regret or my mind is throwing up a doubt, it doesn't really mean we have to take it seriously. And ultimately, let thoughts, there's always this chatter that goes on inside our heads. Let thoughts arise, let thoughts subside. But ultimately, you will do what you are meant to do. There your genes are going to come into play. There your DNA is going to come into play. All the informal learning, your temperament, everything. Ultimately, that takes over in life. So don't get too hassled about these doubts that you have. And Sanskar, unfortunately, I missed your opening remarks. And but I'm sure you would have made pretty compelling points, and I'm sure you would have had a lot of interesting things to say. So anyway, I'd better wind up. I just want to tell these boys that it was wonderful meeting them on this platform. We really learned, and I'm sure all the MCKVs who watched you, it was a great moment for them. They must have got a lot of wisdom, a lot of important points from you. And Rishi sir, Agoni ma'am, and all our other colleagues in the physics department, thank you very much for organizing this. And thank you also for involving me in this. It was a great, great pleasure. And, this experience has really made my day. So Rishit, Sanskar, Ankit, Dipanjan, Neil, God bless you, Bete. And may you steam ahead with all your dreams and aspirations. And like I said, I rambled a little, but that is to a large extent because my heart was full and my intellect wasn't working. And so I just thought I'd speak from my heart and what was there in my heart. So God bless all of you. Thank you so much. Good day.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a lot of insight, and that was a lot of deep thoughts flowing over a very short span of time. And I would just say that if pride is a sin, I would gladly be a sinner today, because right now I cannot explain like how proud I feel as a teacher to have a conversation with all of you. And those of you who have been around me, you people are my favorites. You are the favorite part of the school. You are my favorite part of the school. So thank you so much for coming across, joining across different time zones. Dipanjan, it's past bedtime for Dipanjan right now. And thanks a lot. I would just like to call up Agumoni ma'am to kindly propose a vote of thanks. Agumoni ma'am.
Could I just add something?
Yeah, sure. Yes, Neil.
I was actually wondering that what would I answer if Rajashri sir had asked me that what do you miss about school? So I think after listening to sir, I think there's one thing that all of us can be sure of is that we miss listening to sir speak in the morning assembly, and whatever he spoke right now, I wish that we had such directors in our government colleges in our country, because listening to something like this every day, no one can ever falter in any sphere of life. And to all the students, I must say that if you want to look, up to someone for inspiration and, for knowing that what and how would you see yourself few years ahead, I think there's no better example than sir. And sir, you might be a director and I'm sure you be wonderful at it, but I will always remember you like our principal, because we have very fond memories together. And I too have those pictures of us, one above the other. So please, and what's our focus, I would like to emphasize on that again, that ultimately in life, no matter which course you pursue, which college you graduate from, people hire you, or you work in institutions only when you are a complete person. Knowledge will never be enough. You will only be an asset if you can bring more to a company. Another example is Rajoshi sir. Look at him. He is a science teacher. He speaks so well. He has conducted. He's an awesome host. I've also had the privilege or luck to see him speak because my mother is a teacher in the same school, and I sometimes see the functions on her tablet. So that those
Thank you so
inspirations
much.
are right there in front of you. So to be a complete person, your degrees won't be enough anywhere. Every institute looks for a person who can do more, and that also has its cons because you are asked to do everything, but that's how you add value to an institute, I think. So thank you so much for what you spoke. It's really a privilege.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you. Very kind of you. Very kind of you. Thank you so much.
Agamoni ma'am, if you can kindly take over.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Am I audible? Okay. Wishing a lovely morning to our respected chairman, sir, director, sir, Malika ma'am, Bishwajit sir, dear colleagues, my panelists, beloved students, and all other attendees. A prestigious institution has completed 25 years of its excellence and is presently having a prized possession of countless achievers. And like it's a matter of pride and honor to propose a vote of thanks to our panelists, comprising our ex-students, who have wonderfully presented their ideas and guided our students about the different, career options which are available. So on behalf of my physics department and the entire management of MCKV, I express my gratitude to Ankit Mondal, Sanskar Jhajaria, Rishit Singhania, Dr. Neil Ray, and Dipanjan Ghosh. And I don't want to extend my speech for long because already you are there, it's almost 2 hours. And but I thank also the wonderful students in the audience who have turned up in such great numbers. I would like to express my thanks and appreciation to Choyan Dugar, who has contributed to this webinar by, preparing the poster. And further, a big thank you to Rajoshi sir for his idea, coordination, and efforts towards anchoring the entire session. I would like to place my heartfelt thanks to my technical support team, comprising Pushpam Chatterjee sir, Andhara Datta ma'am, Piyu Ganguly ma'am, and Aruna Gaur ma'am. My sincere thanks to Shangu Mitra ma'am for a constant guidance. So now we come to the end of this lively session. Once again, I thank you, dear panelists. Thank you very much. It's so nice to see you.
Thank you so much. It has been a wonderful time. Good night to Dipanjan, and a wonderful day ahead for all of you. Hope we'll meet soon someday. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye. We'll take your leave now.
Thank you.